Welcome to Building Texas with Justin McKenzie and Summer Babarek. Sponsored by the Boerne Kendall County Economic Development Corporation and Das Greenhouse. And now, here's your host, Justin McKenzie.
Welcome to Building Texas, where we sit down with the most interesting people who are making an impact locally and around the state. Boerne is growing, so is Texas, and that's a fact. I'm Justin McKenzie, and I will be introducing you to the builders, creators, and entrepreneurs serving your community and building the big ideas that are building Texas.
My name is Summer Babarek, and I've been a longtime resident of Kendall County, and I'm here to help Justin make things interesting.
Today we have Amy Story joining us from the Boerne Kendall County Economic Development Corporation. We're going to be excited to enter her conversation and learn more about what's happening in Texas and what's happening really in Boerne and Kendall County. So every week you'll learn about what is being built so that you can understand the vision, find helpful resources, and know how to get involved. Amy is a longtime resident of Kendall County, a proud Longhorn, and interesting builder making a big impact locally. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Amy, Boerne Kendall County Economic Development Corporation is quite a mouthful.
It is.
Can you help us understand what is your role at the EDC and what is the role of the EDC?
Sure. Happy to talk about this. A lot of folks are surprised that we have an EDC here in Kendall County. A lot of people are familiar with the Chamber of Commerce, and we provide a complementary role to the Chamber of Commerce, but what we do is very different. So our mission, and I'll say it, it's also a mouthful, but our mission is to promote business opportunities that will grow a diverse and vibrant economic future for Kendall County. So that's a mission statement, but what is it that we do on a daily basis? Our role really is three primary things. One is to bring new businesses to the business community here, grow our tax base, create a diverse economy here locally in Kendall County. Our second role is business retention and expansion. 90% of all jobs come from existing businesses, so it's important to maintain and grow the businesses that exist here. So if there are expansions, if they have issues or challenges, we're here to help assist in that regard. And then third, and probably the most interesting aspect of what we do, and it's something that's really ramped up in importance in the past few years, is supporting entrepreneurs. Economic development is often referred to as a three-legged stool. So those would be the three primary roles of the EDC. So we are a 501c6 nonprofit public-private partnership. We are supported by the City of Boerne, Kendall County, and over 80 private local businesses. So we have a unique funding structure compared to other economic development organizations across the state and country. But what we do here, we feel like is effective, and it's a model that we work with. So happy to tell folks more about what we do, because a lot don't seem to know.
So how long has the EDC been functioning in Boerne?
Oh, I should have known you'd ask me that. I want to say, and I could be wrong, around 2006 is when it was formed by a group of local business leaders who saw the need for specific targeted economic development. So a lot of those members are still involved with the EDC, so it's great to see that continuity of leadership. But the model was started in the same framework that we have now. So we've been around a good long time.
Summer, as you've come back into the community, and we're going to talk a lot about your background as we go through each week's episode. But Summer, how did you get connected to the EDC? Where did you come looking for?
My background is in entrepreneurship and life science venture capital by way of education and experience. And, I was living in San Antonio at the time and wanted to understand where would be a good place for our business. And our business is a little bit different than the traditional businesses that are here in Boerne, Kendall County. But one of the things that was really exciting was when I got connected with Amy, which was at a networking event, I saw a big difference between what Amy is doing for the community out here and what we had seen in the community that we were in currently. And it was a point person that I could talk to and say, these are some challenges that we're having. This is what we're thinking about. These are some things that we need for our business. And she was a go-to resource for those sorts of things and was helping me to connect the dots, which aren't always easy for an entrepreneur to do. So that's really how we got connected and how I got interested in what was happening with the economic development out in Boerne, Kendall County. And as I've re-entered the community, because as you know, we live here now, it's just changed so much. And I think that that's in large part to the efforts of the EDC.
Hopefully change in a good way is what you're referring to.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It looks way better. water. No, it's just grown significantly. And there is so much more economic opportunity here than there was when I was growing up here.
Thank you for joining us this morning on Building Texas. We're having a conversation with Amy Story about the Economic Development Corporation in Boerne and Kendall County. Co-host Summer Babarek is joining us today as well to really help round out the conversation about where Amy's building, what the EDC's role locally is, and how does it really make a difference in building Texas. So Summer, it's interesting that you say, I met Amy through these events, and coming into the conversation, Amy's a connector. I
think that's really a primary role of what we do. Every project is different, every business is different, and what they need to succeed here is different. So I do think that's a very accurate description of what we do is we connect to the resources that you need in order to plug into our community and succeed here.
And I was just going to say, when you talk about one of the three roles that you fill is being a support system for an entrepreneur or being supportive of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs have a lot on their plate and they're doing 1,000 different things at one time. And it's not enough, I think, for a community to just say, oh, we have resources or we have things that would draw entrepreneurs here naturally. If there isn't somebody making that point to the entrepreneur and actively pursuing that person to inform them about those resources, it's lost in the noise. There's tons of resources everywhere. There's tons of resources nationally. We love when in my business and the FDA points you back to their website. It's like, oh, it's on the website. Oh, okay. You want to tell me where on the website that is? Same kind of thing. Yes, there's a lot of resources that different, communities and different cities offer for entrepreneurs or businesses, but having someone tell you where the specific resources that you're looking for is invaluable. And I think it gives entrepreneurs a sense of, I want to be connected to that more definitively.
So Amy, I want to jump in and talk about that definitively. One, you did mention that you're funded differently. The EDC here in Boerne and Kendall County, as a community, I don't see us doing a lot of abatements or a lot of incentives to attract companies here. What I watch you building is that ecosystem. What I've admired about your spirit and about what you're putting into the EDC is that you are that connector. It's not just saying, here's the resource. It's let me introduce you to, let me put together a meeting. Let's all go sit down and find how it's going to benefit the community. So when we talk about building, we talk about how you're attracting. How does Boerne compete as a regional player in Central Texas?
There's a lot of aspects to what you just asked me. One, referring to how we're funded, that does impact what we were able to do. Texas Economic Development Council, which is kind of the governing body of EDCs in Texas, does an annual survey where you report your budget, your compensation. And in this last survey, Kendall County's economic development budget fell in the bottom 12% of all economic development organizations in the state. So it is what it is. Many are funded by sales tax, and because of that, they're able to engage in public-private partnerships. They can buy property. They can build buildings. I mean, they have significant resources to be able to impact the landscape of economic development in a much more concrete way. What we do here is we market the community. You talked regionally about what does that look like. The past 2 years, we've worked with the San Antonio region. We've identified as a group that we will be much more effective marketing the San Antonio region rather than each one of our individual communities. So with that in mind, we've formally organized, and what that's enabled us to do is, one, stretch our marketing dollars and be able to tell a part of a bigger story. So the beauty of it is that within the San Antonio region, and it encompasses all of the adjacent counties to Bexar County, it allows us to show who we are, why we're different, what the different communities within the region look like, what they're seeking to attract, what their goals are, and they're very diverse communities. What is right for Seguin or Castroville is not necessarily the same thing that would be a fit in our community. So what I like about this group is that it's enabled us to tell a story. It's enabled us to differentiate ourselves within the community. Folks like Summer that have existed within the region, that raises our level of our profile within the region, so that for those that Boerne and Kendall County would be a fit, we're able to tell our story and attract those folks.
And have you seen that that's happening with other regions in Texas? I mean, I think one of the really unique things about Texas as a state is that we do have these larger regional concentrated centers. And it's more than just a suburb of like the larger metropolitan areas that you see on the coast. It's much broader than that. And so do you see that same sort of philosophy or strategy in the Austin region or the Houston region?
Absolutely. And I think San Antonio, our region was finally getting to the place that others were. You've got the DFW region, Greater Houston, Austin area region. And I think San Antonio was a little behind in identifying that, hey, we've got a lot to sell in this community. We've got a lot of opportunities. And if we do this cooperatively and collaboratively, we'll be more effective.
Every Saturday morning at 9:30 right here on Boerne Radio, you're going to be able to hear conversations like this one that are talking about the people and the creators that are out making an impact in Texas. Join us after the break. We're going to hear more about what Amy's doing to help Boerne stand out in the region, and we're going to learn who's really behind what we're doing and creating the energy in our ecosystem. This is Justin McKenzie from Building Texas. Today's segment is brought to you by Das Greenhouse. Das Greenhouse is a business incubator launched here in Boerne to serve our local community. Das Greenhouse is a place where you can come to grow your idea. Our goal is to make Boerne accessible to people who are looking to grow a business, expand a business, or learn more about what's out there in their community and get involved. Visit us at dasgreenhouse.org or come visit us at 7 Upper Balcones Road, Boerne, Texas. Das Greenhouse. Welcome back to Building Texas. I'm Justin McKenzie, and we're sitting here talking to Amy Story with the Boerne Kendall County Economic Development Corporation and understanding what she's building here in Texas and the impact that it's having. So as we went to break, you were talking about the region and the way Boerne has established itself in the region around San Antonio is what we'll call it right now. Let's talk about what does that mean and what have you really helped spearhead and grow in our ecosystem that allows us, Boerne and Kendall County, to be known in the region. Can you help us understand that brand?
Sure. You know, one of the goals of the EDC is to position Kendall County to attract the kind of business development that we want. So, as I mentioned, what is a fit for another part of our region may not be a fit for Boerne. So looked at what does that look like? What do folks want to see? And this kind of goes back, if I can back up just a bit, to our strategic plan that we're in year 3 of. We worked with the University of Texas and specifically their IC Squared Institute to focus on the future of rural economic development, which we're still considered rural. And so what we did was gather stakeholders. We had many roundtables. We had community leaders. We had elected officials. We had residents that all participated in this and really looking at what is our vision for our fast-growing community. Because, as you said, we're growing. That's a fact. We understand it. We all live in this community. We understand why people are coming. It's why I came here with my family. So we get it. How do we manage it? So the biggest thing that came out of that, and it was goal number 1 in our strategy plan, but it was how do we grow our own? How do we focus on the entrepreneurial community that already exists here, and how do we grow that to contribute to the business fabric of Kendall County? It's great to say, hey, we want entrepreneurs. We want them to come here. There are a lot of entrepreneurs here, but what were we really offering them? What could I really offer Summer as a reason to choose Kendall County over the many other options? And the reality is Kendall County is competing for a lot of these high-quality businesses that will bring good, clean, high-paying jobs to our community, which is what our residents want to see. It's what we want, the ability to work and live here. It's what we want for the future of our students that come from here. We want the ability to bring them back to our community. So what were we really offering them? And the answer was not a lot. It's a great place to live. It's close to 2 major metro areas, but specifically what tools existed. So Justin and I have known each other for several years now, and we had really brainstormed about what does this look like? What can we offer? And Justin's other hat that he wears is executive director of the Boerne Kendall County Angel Network, which I look at as the first concrete step toward providing a reason for entrepreneurs to choose Kendall County. Justin, I'll let you explain what it is for the listeners, and then I'll jump back in.
Well, Amy, thank you for that. The Angel Network here in Boerne and Kendall County really does exist as the first mover in the ecosystem. Our goal when we were going through the IC Squared roundtables was how do we build a space and an ecosystem that allows people to thrive, that attracts the right businesses here that are low impact but high reward, and then ensures that we're activating people in our community. We know there's a lot of people here that would love their grandkids to be here. So how do we make that a reality? How do we create a future for all of the talent that we're exporting out of Boerne ISD and Comfort ISD and give them an opportunity later in life to build a career here? We couldn't do that without activating people, activating the community. So the Angel Network was a great resource to bring people into a room that are willing to invest, willing to share their time and mentorship, their coaching, their experiences, and have a bigger impact in the community. And that's where I love the concept of building Texas. When we think of how we're building something as broad as Texas, it really does start locally. It starts in your neighborhood. It starts in your school district. It starts with plugging into a community. So, Amy, for what we've done together in Boerne and Kendall County, it is making an impact regionally. It's allowing us to go to Houston Street in San Antonio, where the tech sector lives for San Antonio, and say, here's what we're doing in the Hill Country. In rural Texas, we're providing opportunity for ag tech companies to come. We're looking at life science and healthcare companies to come out of UT Health Science and other places. Members in our community that are traveling into San Antonio today, how do we keep them here working and thriving locally? So the work has been a lot of fun. It's been the result of IC Squared and the University of Texas and a lot of effort.
That is true. Well, the Angel Network, as I said, that was really the first concrete step that we said, hey, we've got something. In summer, you came out and pitched to the Angel Network, and I will say you set a very high bar for subsequent companies to come out, because for those of you that don't know Summer, she is a force. The next element, and this has received some media coverage lately, was space and mentorship. What does that look like? How do we offer that? Das Greenhouse is really what I would call phase 2 of our entrepreneurial ecosystem. And Das Greenhouse is a space that we've created for entrepreneurs to give them support as they seed their companies here and then launch in our community in the long term. We've provided access to capital through the Angel Network. And then what Das Greenhouse is going to specifically provide is a home for these businesses to start. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. We have high caliber mentorship here that exists in Kendall County. We have executives and business people with extremely impressive experience. We've got a mentorship aspect of it. We've got programming that we'll offer. So our goal really is to help these businesses choose Kendall County, plug in here, make the connections here, succeed, and then ultimately locate here in our community and provide those jobs and opportunities that we're seeking for our younger residents.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things I think that's really interesting to me about what you and Justin have been able to put together from a Boerne Kendall County perspective in terms of, okay, we now have a funding source and now we have a location source, which is so important in building that story for a business, for an entrepreneur, for someone coming in. And I think what's really unique about what you guys are trying to do with Das Greenhouse is I think it's going to provide a location for what I would call a purposeful collision.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, because of what you're talking about with all of the resources in terms of individuals who have retired here, who have exceptional experience, you're bringing them in, you're going to have this curriculum, and then you're going to fund these newer businesses with newer entrepreneurs. They then have a place to go and reap the benefits of that experience. And I think that just once again is one of those connections to the community and to the resources in the community. One of the things that I wanted to go back to, Amy, is you talked about San Antonio and the greater region joining together to lift that. Now, something that I think is interesting is that you said, the Dallas, Fort Worth area and Houston area, they've been doing this, but San Antonio's been competing and Boerne's been competing. How do you see that changing or being impacted by this strategic alignment alignment between the EDC organizations. And what do you think that's going to mean specifically for our Kendall County area?
I think, especially coming out of COVID, the San Antonio region really received a lot of attention. Boerne and Kendall County received a lot of attention. I mean, our phone was ringing with businesses that were looking to leave other communities where maybe the business climate was not as favorable and looking for a new home. San Antonio, you know, they rebranded their economic development organization from San Antonio EDF to Greater SA, which I think really reflects the purpose of it, and that is the Greater San Antonio area. It's enabled us to align as one entity moving forward and show, again, the diversity of choice that exists in the region. So I think San Antonio, as a whole, it's growing rapidly too. The cost of living is lower. There's just a lot of opportunity here in this region. And so I think a deliberate, focused economic development partnership will benefit all communities within the region.
Absolutely. And when you talk about one of the things that you both said is growing your own, I remember, Justin, when we were in high school here, you know, that was kind of the end of the journey for Boerne. You know, and then it became, okay, where are you going to go? If you were going to go to college, where were you going to go to college? And if you weren't going to go to college, where were you going to go get a job? And so I think one of the things that I'd like to talk about is how does your work directly impact our ability to grow our own?
Again, there's a couple aspects to that I want to address. One, from an EDC standpoint, you know, workforce is a challenge. It's a challenge everywhere, and it's not an easy problem to solve, but it doesn't mean you don't look for solutions. So we've engaged a workforce committee with community members, representatives from local government, and looked at what can we do to move that needle? How can we improve our pipeline of our workforce pipeline? So you talk about opportunities kind of ended at high school. People would go to college, they'd leave the community, maybe they come back, maybe they wouldn't, but we've got to provide opportunities, whether it's out of trade school, whether it's out of high school with some type of certification, whether it's after an associate's degree or a four-year degree or beyond. What do those opportunities look like for them to come back? And I think that's why it's so important that we look for companies that are going to provide those types of jobs. Boerne, the quality of life here is high, but so is the cost of living. So you've got a challenge there. So we need to attract jobs that are going to enable people to both live and work here. So it's not an easy answer, but we've got to do what we can do to chip away at the problem.
As we wrap up our conversation today, I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing and the connections that you're making. This conversation reminds me that it's a difficult role to do economic development in this environment. The way you were funding it, the way we're trying to attract and retain at the same time. We know the quality of life in our community is key and important. People came here for a reason. Let's honor that. And as we see more and more growth across Texas, this region is not going to be immune to it, but how do we influence it? And I think programs like Dust Greenhouse, the ecosystem conversation, and really just defining what we do well, what we don't want to do, is an important aspect of how you're facing the challenges of growth today. So thank you for your efforts there. How do we get people involved? If somebody's heard something today and they say, that sounds like I want to be plugged in, I want to know more, where can they go to find more about the work that you're doing?
There are a number of ways to get plugged in, and we've talked about the different organizations that might be appealing to individuals out there who are listening to this. I would say reach out to me as a point person. I can plug you into the right place. I can make the connection that you need. Our website provides a lot of information. I would be remiss in saying that without saying that we have data on our community that is free to use for anybody. It's a data service that we pay for. It provides more information than you could possibly imagine on both Boerne, Kendall County. So I would encourage people to visit our website, and that's www.BKCEDC.com, Boerne, Kendall County Economic Development Corporation. It's a mouthful. So I would encourage them to reach out to me or call me directly. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody to talk about what we're doing in the community, the value I believe it brings. I mean, Justin, I live here with my family. I've raised my 4 kids here, and when we talk about boomerang talent, this is not just an abstract concept for me. I mean, I've got adult children, and I'd love to see them be able to come back in this community and raise their families and enjoy the quality of life that we all do. So thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate the way that you're building Texas, the local impact that you're having, and I would just echo come talk to Amy. She has a lot of information. She's happy to share the work and the great work that the EDC and other organizations have done for decades now to really create the quality of life that we have here and celebrate the quality of life that we enjoy in Boerne and Kendall County. Every week you'll learn more about what's being built so that you can understand the vision, find helpful resources, and know how to get involved. Take the opportunity today to reach out to Amy at the Economic Development Corporation and learn more about how we're going out and talking about our community in a broader conversation. This is Building Texas, where we sit down with the most interesting people who are making an impact locally and statewide. Join us every Saturday at 9:30 right here on Boerne Radio. This is Justin McKenzie from Building Texas. Today's segment is brought to you by Das Greenhouse. Das Greenhouse is a business incubator launched here in Boerne to serve our local community. Das Greenhouse is a place where you can come to grow your idea. Our goal is to make Boerne accessible to people who are looking to grow a business, expand a business, or learn more about what's out there in their community and get involved. Visit us at dasgreenhouse.org or come visit us at 7 Upper Balcones Road, Boerne, Texas. Das Greenhouse.